welcome to Ask Mo TV. Today we're talking with Sharon Baum, who is a magistrate in the UK, and we'll be discussing the procedures involved in working as a magistrate. So Sharon, when judging a case, do you sit alone, or are there other people that sit with you? And who makes the decisions? Does anyone have more decision-making power than other people?
We sit usually as the court of three. That is the preference. It's the chairman and two wingers. We also have a legal clerk in court with us, and she always guides us and gives us the legal aspect. I mean, we're not expected to know the law. Obviously, over time, you become more and more familiar with how things work and what the sentence is going to be for something. But we have guidelines, and she works with us. Sometimes we're a panel of two, but as I say, it's not our preference. It'll be a mixture of men and women, ethnic groups, etc. And we like to have a majority of 3 to 0, but a unanimous decision. But sometimes it'll be a 2 to 1, and we can't help that. Often we have a lot of cases to deal with in one session, and whilst we might like the luxury of debating till all 3 agree, sometimes we have to agree to disagree and go with the majority of a 2 to 1.
Okay. And what does one have to do to become the chairman of the bench?
You can apply to be a chair after 5 years. Somehow, whilst I can be very vocal, I somehow haven't plucked up the courage to be chair of the bench or to go through the whole application process. I didn't explain before that the winger actually doesn't speak out in court at all. The wingers speak to their chair, and the chair speaks out to the court. Somehow I can't find my voice to do that, but I think once you're accepted, you go through training, and you go through practices in inverted commas in court with a lot of guidance from another chair and from your legal clerk. So people who do it, I think, really love it, and you have to be able to think quickly on your feet or in your chair. But so far I haven't done that. I'm actually decided to put my energy into hopefully the family proceeding court. So we'll see how that goes. I'm in the midst of applying for that.
Okay. So, like you said, you sit with a legal clerk. To what extent do they have an influence on your decisions that you make?
That's a very interesting question. They can guide us. They can tell us the law. They shouldn't essentially influence our decision, but they are doing this all day, every day. They're obviously more knowledgeable than us. They're legally trained, and it depends. Every case is different. Sometimes we're very clear about what we think. Other times we will ask them for some feedback, but the decision is ultimately ours.
Okay. And in general, you work in your local court. Are there any regulations in place if a magistrate is faced with a case regarding people that they know or even family members?
Yes, absolutely. We do work locally. That's quite true. Well, the 3 local courts are now amalgamated. So whilst I always sat in Willesden, I can now sit in Willesden or in Hendon, both fairly local areas. One area, I live in Hendon, and we have to say straight away if we know anybody who's coming before the court, even if it's their lawyer. I've had that on a couple of occasions when I've known somebody and I've told the chair, you know, I know this person. I'm glad to say I don't think I've ever known a defendant, but I have known people on the legal team sometimes, and I will always say that. As such, I've never actually had to leave the court because the situation didn't warrant it. But yes, you must always say if there's any personal connection.
Okay. And in your experience, how often does a case go on to a higher court? And when it does, are you ever involved in that higher process?
No, I'm personally not. I think there are some magistrates who've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they do sit in the Crown Court sometimes. But I haven't, I'm not that established in my career. What percentage go up? That's a good question, because we sit in so many different, I sit sometimes in domestic violence, sometimes I'll sit in TV licensing. It's quite varied. Um, I'd say probably 50% of the people, but I'm really not sure if that's an accurate statistic, just a feeling, will elect. Either we will need to send it up because, as I said, we have limited sentencing powers, or because they themselves decide that they wish to be heard by a judge and jury. So just from a feeling of what I've experienced over the last 8 years, I'd say it's around 50%, but I could well be completely incorrect statistically, and I'm sure there are statistics for that.
Okay, thanks. And finally, can your role as Justice of the Peace, a magistrate, be used as a shortcut or an alternative route to becoming a qualified lawyer or a judge? Or do you also have to take the full academic course like most people?
It's interesting you asked that question, because when I was at college after school, I did a business studies diploma. I actually did very well in the law module, and at one point I did consider going on to do a law degree. That never materialized, but I don't think this would be a shortcut. I've never looked into it, but I would imagine that we'd have to start from scratch like everybody else. Sometimes there are lawyers and barristers who become district judges, so that works the other way around. They have the legal qualification and they become a district judge, and they sit in court on their own. They sit in the magistrates' court, but not as part of a team of 3, and they will dispense justice independently, again with the support of the legal clerk. But as far as I know, it's not a shortcut, but it definitely gives you a taste for the law and whether you like the whole system, and if you have an appetite for that sort of environment. One day, maybe I'll become a lawyer. I don't know.
One day. Thank you very much, Sharon, for talking to us. It's been very insightful.
Thank you very much, Sahaba, for giving me the opportunity. I don't know who's going to be watching me out there, but I hope I've done the magistrate system justice.
I'm sure you have. Thank you.
Bye now.